Good morning once again, and welcome back to the Tips from the Trenches Part 2. You have Al here talking to you, which I'm sure you already surmised. And I think the three amigos are back with me as well. What's your name?
Belinda Govich.
And you?
Bernie Thomas.
How about you?
Judy Mayfield.
See, I can't get rid of them. They're all back. So, we're going to pick off where we left off. And this time, I'm going to go to Belinda for the next slide. So Belinda, talk to us about what Vicki Rossi submitted as one of her best practices.
So again, we're talking about learning kids' names, which is super, super important. So what Vicki does is she gives herself 2 weeks to learn all of her kids' names, and she makes them learn her so they don't call her bus driver, which was one of my pet peeves in driving too. So I like the fact that she gives herself some time, so it's like a goal. I'm going to know everybody within 2 weeks, and that she makes them learn her name as well. But what I really like is that she talks about no matter what her mood is, she always smiles and said good morning and good afternoon with them. You know, she left all of her baggage or all of her feelings, you know, at the door there. She put on a smile and she prepared herself and she said good morning. And you know, like she says, that could make a lot. It's a little thing, but it could mean a lot to somebody. So she always wanted to be that little thing that made someone's day, and I thought that was really great too.
Absolutely, and I like that as well because you know, sometimes we tend to forget our clientele, these young children, especially the youngest of the young. They may be coming or going to a home that may have an abusive environment in it, and that little kindness is all they get. And so I'm glad to hear that Vicki does that. Bernie, Cheryl talks about, again, assigning seats and learning names quickly. Helps with identifying problems as well when she's investigating who's doing what. You want to pick up on that a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you, Cheryl, for mentioning that again. And I'm very happy to see that a number of drivers are mentioning that as a tip, as to have assigned seating, because you can see all the advantages that come with having assigned seating for all your students. And Cheryl mentions here elementary students. I think it's also a good idea for middle school students. High school, maybe not so much, but you know, elementary and middle school definitely. But I like her reasonings is because you can learn the names more quickly, which we had alluded to at another time. Once you have the seating done, go through their names and say it to each one so that they see that you know who they are. And as she said, it helps to make the personal connection with the students on the bus. And another good thing is it also helps you identify problems quickly and to narrow the field of who and or why the situation has occurred. I think that's also a good tip, because if you have them in already assigned seats, you don't have to wait to see who's sitting where and what's going on, or like every time I see Johnny, there's a problem, so Johnny must be the problem. Not necessarily so, as we all know, because sometimes Johnny is the kid, you know, where others like to tease him. And so I think it's a good idea, but definitely the assigned seating, you know, is going to help you in so many ways, and you'll see, you know, the advantages of having children in assigned seats. Great tip, Cheryl. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. So our friend Jacob is back on the radar, and some of you may not know that Jacob has education from the Culinary Institute. So in his tip here that he shared with us, or tips, he kind of compares the culinary education with the training or education, we can say that he got as a school bus driver here at Shen. So I'm going to ask Judy to kind of talk a little bit more about what Jacob has shared through his email.
Yeah, that's actually a great analogy. Before leaving the Culinary Institute of America, you had to do, Jacob says, a practical exam. You had to draw a meal just out of a jar, not knowing ahead of time, and then just cook it for the judges, which I find very nerve-wracking. He also was nervous. He talked to one of the instructors who he knew had judged these in the past and asked him for any tips. And the instructor said, if all else fails, just cook. You have the skills, you've been given the skills, the attitude, the aptitude, just cook. Jacob says it's pretty much the same thing with driving. Shen is a great place to learn how to drive. I know the training is top notch. Just rely on the skills that you've been given. All else fails. You just simply drive.
Perfect. Thank you for summarizing that, Judy. Next, Any Mouse sends a tip on how to keep your windshield wipers working in bad icy weather. And I think this is a great tip because we do have a lot of issues with that on those weird days when we think the heater, the defroster, what have you, cannot keep up with the ice accumulation. But there is really a trick to that. So Belinda, can you please share what that trick might be?
I actually love this trick because I do it in my own car, so many people probably do. You know, you take your wipers and you put them straight up and down, and that's going to help that ice and, you know, slushy gook stay off your wipers so that when you do turn them on, you're not just wiping your windshield with slushy, icy yuckiness. So that's actually, I love that tip. It's really a good one. They also talk about, you know, when your windshield wipers ice up or anything, just pull over safely, get out, and just kind of scrape them off if you can. That's going to get them out. That's going to get it off really quick, just like you do in your car. They also talk about turning off all your heaters except your defrost, which I thought was really interesting. And again, another great tip I would have loved to try in my bus. So I think they're all great tips to do. We live in the northeast up here, so we do get that weather quite often. So thank you, Anonymous, and awesome tips.
Yeah, and you know, what I want to add to this particular piece is that when drivers go out to the lot and there's snow or ice on the windshield covering the wipers, you really don't want to take that broom and start beating on those wipers. One of the reasons that wipers come flying off in bad weather is because we have jarred them loose. It doesn't take a whole lot of banging to jar them loose. You want to free those wipers by hand. And if you need help, come and get help. Don't be beating on them with your broom. Great tip. So Bernie, Heather is talking again about using that Caught Being Good bag with all the goodies in there. She has karaoke days on her bus, and you know, it kind of keeps it lively, I guess. But there, you know, we have to do those kinds of things within some safe parameters, right, on the school bus. So you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, in order to keep her middle schoolers occupied, Heather says she has dance parties with karaoke days, and I'm sure that when her dance parties are going on, everyone is just sitting in their seats and waving the air with their hands, because we all know that we're not going to be dancing around on the bus. Everyone needs to be, you know, with bottoms on the seat. So let's continue with your party, but make sure everyone is sitting. Trivia and riddle days, I think, are fine. It's something that the kids are interested in. I mean, anything you can think of that they want to do that. And one thing that she does that even the youngest of the kids, like even like when the kindergartners are new, is the clicker competitions, which is the kids are counting the kids as they get on the bus and clicking it as it goes down. I know the kindergartners like it, and elementary kids like it. And another thing that happens when you pick someone to do the clicker, so to speak, that child feels a part of the bus ride and feels that he belongs in there or she. We have had some phenomenal changes in students because they were allowed to be a part of the bus by counting the kids with a clicker. And I like her idea of, you know, being caught good. And I think that's always good. That's because that's furthering positive behavior, and others see that you can be rewarded, you know, because you are being good. Thank you, Heather, for your tips. It sounds like you have a fun bus and you keep all the children safe and behaving as they should be, sitting in their seats. Thank you, Heather.
All right, great tip again. So Belinda, I'm going to pick you next to talk about the tip we got from Austin Little. And he's talking about, you know, being a new driver on a new run, subbing every day. I like his idea of really asking for the tablets. And that's what we need our substitutes to be using, our tablets. I think they're a great tool. He also says, don't be afraid to ask questions from really everybody, dispatch, trainers, senior employees, even subs who've been here a while and have been on many different runs can really help answer a lot of questions. So you want to add some more to that?
I do. He's totally right about the tablets. They have been great since we have gotten them. Bernie and I have watched hesitant new subs in the morning, terrified. Where were we going to send them out in the dark? But once they started using the tablets, they want to be out on the road all the time. They have no problem asking for them. If Bernie or I forget to assign them a tablet bus or even have a tablet waiting for them, they immediately say to one of us, can I have a tablet? Austin does talk about if the bus does not have a tablet holder in it, we will give them a spare bus with a tablet holder in that to do that run. He also brings up a good point about sometimes the tablet not being correct. And that's important because I'll tell you, when the tablet's not correct, Tammy or myself or another router will definitely find out why and fix that tablet. So you can almost guarantee that when you take out that tablet again to do that run, it will be correct. So it's important when they're not correct for them to let us know so that we can fix that. And I do like that he says to ask questions, because Bernie and I will send new drivers with subs to show them how to use the tablet or show them what it's like to be a sub, where they can answer any questions they have. So Austin definitely had some great and helpful tips. So thank you, and definitely use those tablets.
Indeed. So, Bernie, I'm going to call on you next to talk about Mary Milliham's best practice here.
Mm-hmm.
And she really is talking about setting the example for students that, the kids look up to you for guidance. You want to add?
Yes, and once again, Mary has a good tip, and about if we're trying to encourage the children not to eat or drink on the bus. In fact, we have a sign, in every bus that says there is no eating or drinking on the bus for many reasons. The big one is because of allergies of other students, but the other part is if they're chewing gum, and those of us that have been here for any length of time, the gum doesn't stay in the mouth, and we have to, get the scraper or the glue gun to get the gum off the floor. But as Mary is saying here, you are setting the example. You get on the bus, you wear a seatbelt. Hopefully all the students notice that you're wearing a seatbelt. They also notice, because the rule states no eating or drinking on the bus. That includes you, the driver. No eating or drinking on the bus. Now, I know we've said that you can drink water on the bus. Do it when the kids are not on the bus, because we don't want to set that example, because that gives them an opening to say, but you're doing it. You have no recourse when they come back at you and say, you're doing it. Because if you say, no, I'm not, then you become something else, because you're not telling the truth. So set the example. Like, we all live by example, and your parents teach you examples when they tell you not to do this, because you're going to get hurt, or you're going to upset somebody or something. Set the example on the bus. It says no eating or drinking, then you can feel comfortable telling a student there is no eating or drinking on the bus. Lead by example, and I know that you all can do it. You're all great examples, so don't eat or drink on the bus. Thank you, Mary.
Awesome. Thanks, Bernie. So, Bernie, I want you to also talk about this from, again, anonymous, whoever that might be. And here they talk about seatbelts, which I know that's been a pet peeve of yours for the past handful of years. And what I like about this tip also is that this individual has the kids report monthly and using their honesty check to tell if they did or did not wear a seatbelt, which I think is a really good approach, right? Because again, here you are teaching these children to be honest and truthful.
Yes, this is another good tip, and you're absolutely right that I have been, talking about wearing seatbelts for some length of time now, because we all know it's going to happen. And it's much easier as we work this in small steps, you know, and if we keep just asking and asking them, please put on your seatbelt, it does happen, as this anonymous person says, the children will be honest with you. And I also like the fact that, you know, as long as you make it clear, you know, you're getting a sticker because you were honest and told the truth, you know. But they're getting stickers because they're wearing their seatbelts. It's small steps, folks. It's small steps, and you'll find a little thing. And little kids really love stickers. And you know, and if you start out with them like as in kindergarten and first grade and the elementary grades, you know, within a few years, they'll all be wearing them no matter what grade they're in because they're going to be used to doing it. I mean, you know, and you always have the fallback. Everything else they do in life is wearing a seatbelt. You don't go in your mom and dad's car. You don't go to the Great Escape and not wear a seatbelt. You don't get on an airplane and not wear a seatbelt. You don't get on a stretcher and not have seatbelts on you. It's all a part of your life. As riding the bus, because there's an old thought that you can do whatever you want on the bus. No, the thought is in order to be safe, you need to be having your bottom on the seat and your seat belt on and snug around you to keep you safe. And that's what we're working for, is the safety of the children. And as long as we keep saying, this is to keep you safe, you know, and they tell you honestly, no, I didn't wear my seat belt, then you're making progress, because as they see others doing what they should be doing, you know, kids like to mimic, and they will certainly do that. So keep up the good work and keep trying, because it will be successful one day. Promise you.
So Judy, Gwen talks about, again, introducing herself, giving her basic rules of the bus speech on the first day. She talks about also the 3 strikes and you're out, which really goes towards writing a referral. She doesn't threaten to write a child up and then not follow through, which I think is also a really great point. A lot of us end up doing, you know, saying a lot of threats, we don't follow through, and then kids say, ain't gonna do nothing, right? So, and another theme that we talked about already, she says good morning and goodbye to every student, whether they answer her back or not. You wanna pick up on that?
Yeah, absolutely, Al. As far as her standing and giving the rules of the bus speech, how can you follow the rules if you don't know the rules? Some of them might seem obvious to us, depends on your home situation, depends on your age, depends on a lot of things. So just put those rules out there and let them know. Gwen uses a 3 strikes and you're out tactic for dealing with behavior, which actually perfectly aligns with our referral procedure anyway, which is the first offense, give a verbal warning. Second offense, move the seat. Third offense would be the referral. Obviously, sometimes you go straight to 3. If your student throat punches his neighbor, you're not gonna give them 3 chances to do that. So we know there are exceptions, but in general, it's really great if we can give them, not only for the kid, to give them chances to comply and learn, but also the schools will take us more seriously on our referrals if we're not putting them through for every single thing. If the school sees that we are actually trying to take care of things on the bus that we're able to take care of, they'll pay a little more attention when they actually do get a referral for this. So I think that is a fabulous tip. Again, she brings up the fact that you should know the child's name. The fact that that's coming up so often tells you how important that is. Does fun things like singing happy birthday and the good morning. The other thing she does is to be super friendly to the parents and have good communication with them. That's all part of being a team. I know from being on the phones, when the parents call, there's usually an issue, and what they're expecting is confrontation from you. They're not expecting you to be helpful for some reason. They're all ready to be defensive with you. If you can kind of diffuse that, when I talk to them and I kind of convince them that we're all on the same team, we all want the same thing. We want the students to have a safe and comfortable ride. Great for the students, great for the parents, great for the driver. When they realize that we're all a team together working for the same common goal, it works out. And I think that's what Gwen is talking about there.
Perfect, thank you. Belinda, anonymous, says, after your pre-trip, prepare yourself mentally, right? That before you start, before you leave the bus yard, you should have a calm and positive attitude. Why is that so important?
I like that someone brought this up because we talk a lot about, the technical side. You should make sure you're doing the pre-trip correctly or, following the way you would train. But it's just as important to do all that it is to make sure you're mentally prepared to drive. Especially, in bad weather, if the traffic's going to be heavy because it's Christmas and you go by the mall, or the weather's going to be bad. That's stuff you have to really kind of prepare yourself for. So getting your key, getting right out there, pre-tripping that bus, and then leaving yourself that time to get rid of, the argument you had with your wife that morning, or, that your kids missed the bus, your own kids missed the bus, and, I've gotten those calls before. Let all that go, take a deep breath, focus on that, get yourself ready for what you're going to be facing, because you mentally really need to be there as well as physically when you're driving that bus. You've got those precious cargo on board. So I like that somebody brought that up, and I think it's a great important tip to do.
Right, now, you've heard me say often enough for you guys in the office spaces, dispatch especially, that when the situation is at its worst, that we have to be at our calmest, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's really the only way to handle bad situations. We cannot escalate, and that can be translated to the school bus, whether you're a bus attendant dealing with a difficult child or a bus driver dealing with a difficult child or children or traffic situations. So, great tip indeed. Bernie, I want to go back to you. Vicki Rossi talks about, having a nice talk with a parent. It really helps. And having to know how to avoid a bad situation. What do you say about that?
Well, I think that's a good tip, and I also think it goes way back to, I think it was Violet who said in the last one, like, to get to know your kids. That was Teresa, actually. And what their needs are, and if there are issues like on the bus, sometimes the parent can tell you something like, well, they like to sit, next to the window, or maybe there's a particular student that does not, is not a good combination there. Sometimes, it's as simple and as crazy as it sounds, they don't like particular colors. And this actually happened one time on a bus. The driver had a red coat, and the kid hated the red coat. And every time you see the red coat, the kid would have a meltdown because hated the red coat. And so finally, I had called the parent. I said, I don't remember the child's name, and said, Jimmy seems to be having a rough time on the bus, and everything has been fine, but we're not sure like what's going on. And she said, I probably should have mentioned this to the driver before, but he doesn't like the color red. So when he gets on and he has to sit and look at that red coat, he obviously has issues on the bus. And it's also good to know, and some of this you have to do yourself. Observe the child as they're getting on the bus. Do they look like they're their happy, normal self? Are their eyes down? Are they, sluggishly getting on the bus? Are they upset? Can you tell that something happened at home? Sometimes, it's okay to say, are you okay? But not to always pressure because they don't want to talk about it. But having an awareness of what, happens that makes them act as they do sometimes is always a good idea. And it's always a good idea to have a good relationship with the parents, always, and sometimes when they're angry with us, just always be kind and as polite as you possibly can, and say like, things like, I understand and whatever, I'm just trying to be helpful and make the ride safe for your student. That way, you feel good about what you've done. You don't come into me and say you're going to get a phone call because I did X, Y, and Z. Do things that you want to feel good about. And one of the things is check with the parents and always be kind with them, because they have the student we have on the bus for maybe 20 minutes or so. Remember, they have 24/7. So always be kind with the parents. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to take the next one. The anonymous person that submitted this best practice, which I really like, says to use a dry broom to clean the accumulated road salt off from the back windows. I would suggest from all your glass. It doesn't take long. As you all know, we cannot run the bus wash when the temperature is at the freezing or below freezing level. For a lot of different mechanical, electrical reasons, safety reasons, we can't do that. So what you end up having is, especially if there's snow and what have you on the ground, and the town, county, and state are putting down salts. It gets on your glass, and then it leaves that film that you can't see. But if we are really truly thinking and do believe in safety, we got to grab that broom and we got to clean that glass to the best of our ability, so that we can actually see. And unfortunately, some of our colleagues don't do that until somebody gets on them. That should be carte blanche, done every day until we're able to get these buses back through the bus wash. Bernie, Laurel Hayes talks about basically don't commit if you're in a tight spot, right? And we've seen a lot of incidents because our colleagues, they look at a situation, they assess it, and they still pull through, knowing that there is danger there, right? That there's a hazard there. You want to add more to it?
I want to add more to it, because going back to my days of when I was a trainer, and even to this day, I strongly believe we all have that little voice inside of us that warns us, that something's going to happen. So when people come into me because they have situations where they've gone where they can't fit, almost 100% everybody comes in and I'll say, did you think you could get in there? Well, I thought I could. If you only think you can get into a spot, don't do it. Don't do it, because something's telling you you're not going to make it. And then there's all the paperwork and everything that has to be filled out, and then you might have to end up not only speaking to me, but then you got to talk to Al. I mean, think about that stuff. Just because you didn't want to take the time to either square yourself, go around and redo it, or just wait until you were able to make whatever the turn, the parking spot, whatever you're doing, or trying to pass down a road. If you have to think about it, don't do it. Don't do it. Listen to that little voice that's in there telling you, this is not a good idea. Make sure you stop at this stop sign, because somebody may be watching as you drive through the stop sign. Any of those things, that they're all safety issues that make you think that, I don't think I can do this. My best advice, just don't do it. Nobody's going to fault you for not trying to do something. Buses don't shrink as they're going between two cars. So think about what you're doing. Don't do it.
Very good, thank you. Another anonymous tip that was sent in. I'm going to turn that over to Belinda. And here, this individual is talking about, really as an adult, we need to listen to students, listen to their needs, whether it's emotional, physical, and that we should take the necessary steps to help that child. What do you think about that?
I like that. It goes back to what Bernie was saying. When you know your kids and they get on the bus, you can tell if somebody's having a good day just by looking at them. If you say hi to them and they say hi to you every day, and then that day they don't and they're looking down, like Bernie had mentioned, there could be something wrong, and we need to make sure that we're not just looking after their physical needs. Yes, we're keeping them safe on the bus. We're not keeping Bernie and Al in the same seat because, Bernie hits Al all the time. So, we're not doing that, but we're noticing their emotional stuff. Al you had brought up earlier about all of our homeless students and, foster care students, and, maybe their students' home life is not consistent and the greatest, and we're that one constant. If we get to know them, we'll know what they're like, and do what we need to help that, whether it be report that, whether it just be, being there for them, being in every day. Bernie talks about this all the time, just being there every single day, driving that bus, knowing they know that when they get out of that door in the morning, that, Miss Judy is going to be there, and she's going to be there every single day. That's their one constant. She's going to be there every single day, and she's going to say good morning to me every single day. Just doing that sometimes is helpful, and it is what they need. So I think this is a great point. And thank you, Anonymous.
Perfect, thanks. Judy, how about tackling Gwen's best practice here? Again, she talks about outlines. She talks about, which we know, all of us know, that the substitutes have the hardest job really in our profession. She talks about keeping the buses clean, neat, and fueled. It makes everyone's job easier, right? I mean, all great points. What else did you pick out of that?
Well, having the outlines updated frequently is a common theme during doing this project, which again just tells you how important it is to do it. Maybe you don't realize that when you go and have that changed with Tammy, obviously it changes on the outline for the sub, but it also changes in the computer system, which means that's what the dispatchers are looking at, that's what Anastasia and I and Michelle and Jonah are looking at. And so it helps us to all be on the same page when an issue does arise, that we can all look at the same thing and know what's going on. So again, really, really, really appreciate when you guys update your outlines, and most importantly, have them changed with Tammy so that we all know what we're talking about when we're talking with the parents. Keeping your bus clean, neat, and fueled, it's just makes sense. It's great for your subs. It's great for you, and I think the kids appreciate it too. It just makes everybody's job easier. So Gwen's put in many years here, has some great tips, wonderful things to follow.
I'm telling you, whether it's my car or driving tractor trailers in the military or other way, having a clean vehicle just motivates you. It's just a great way to be. Whether you're by yourself, just like when you take your car to the car wash, right? You feel good when that car has been washed, when it's been vacuumed on the inside, right? Same thing with these buses. All of our taxes have paid for these buses. We need to take ownership and keep them clean, keep them fuel for the next person that's going to use them. So next we have Jacob. And Belinda, I want to ask you to tackle this one. I like what Jacob's talking about, where he says, drive the same way every day. This way you won't forget what you're driving, and you'll be in a habit for success. What are your thoughts on that?
He's so true. And for those of you who worked here when Gloria was here, or either trained with Gloria, she would always say you can't be a part-time defensive driver. So meaning you can't drive your car the way you drive your car and not square your turns and not use your mirrors and speed and do all that stuff, and then expect to get in your bus and square your turns and not speed and stuff like that. So it's definitely true. Gloria and Jacob, what they're saying, you should drive any vehicle you're driving, you should drive it the same way, and that's the way you were trained to drive your bus, and that's the safest way, and that's the legal way. So whether you're in your bus or your car, they both follow the same laws and rules and things like that. So definitely some great advice from Jacob.
And Bernie, we're back to you and Mary Milham. You keep drawing her. I don't understand why. I think you and Mary are the best of friends. But Mary talks about, again, keeping a clean bus. And she really says, believe it or not, the kids love a clean bus. So you want to expound more on her comments?
Sure, absolutely. And that's so true, Mary. It absolutely is so true to keep a clean bus. And kids do notice. You're absolutely right about that. And when you say on here, sometime when you have to take a sub bus and the kids get on, they'll say, oh, this is dirty. I don't want to sit here. This floor is sticky, whatever. It's so true. In fact, I have been doing evaluations, and someone came in, and what they put down as something to do to get to know their kids better on the bus. They said they were going to have a clean bus for them every morning when they went to get on the bus. And my comment to that person was, and not only will that do a lot for the kid, it will also do a lot for you, because it's very uplifting to get on a bus that's clean, and when you get in, you sit down and there's not dust around, the seatbelts are all done. As with many things, there's always many layers and many ripples. It's just starting out with a clean bus, and it's also going to make your day great, and your frame of mind, as we just talked about a little bit before, where you're going to be able to concentrate on driving in your clean bus every day. It gives you a sense of pride. You can drive your bus with your shoulders up, and your hands on the wheel and your foot on the gas. Keep a clean bus for the kids, for you. And then Mary also says she keeps like a little supply of tissues, paper towels, baby wipe, and trash can liners. And she says it's an easy way to stay on schedule should a child get sick. We all know it's good to have a supply. I used to always carry a bag around with me. I was known as the bag lady because I always carried all this stuff. But good things to have, keep them with you. Keep the bus clean. You too will feel so much better if you keep that bus clean, and then you present that positive attitude to your students and everyone you come in contact with. Great tip, Mary. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. Oh, look, I drew Linda Arthur. How lucky. I'm going to go buy me a lotto ticket today. So, Linda talks about making sure your windows are closed before going through the bus wash. I wonder if she's speaking from experience. I did hear a story about some school bus driver who went and spent, I don't know, $199 on a hairdo, came in and drove the bus immediately thereafter, right? Took that bus through the bus wash, and guess what? Guess what?
Got wet.
It
Got
rained on the
water.
inside because the window was open. Great tip, Linda. Thank you so very much for sharing that. And I think we all know to keep our windows closed, whether it's in the school bus, in the bus wash, or in our own cars going through Hoffman's car wash. Well, Bernie, we're back to you again.
I know.
What are you talking about here?
I'm just talking about things in general and trying to have a positive outlook on life and to take care of yourself mentally, you know. So always look for the positive. Sometimes when you're having like the worst kind of days going on, it's just like with this terrible virus that's going on now. Is it tough on all of us? Yes, it is. But the positive part of it is I get to spend so many more hours with my Chloe, and she just loves that. And I'm sure that, you know, you all are getting to know each other better and being home because, you know, we lead such active lives that sometimes, you know, relationships, we don't even know they exist because we pass in the night. But it's a positive thing of getting together. It's a positive way of finding how to do things in a different way so that we still can do things that we've always done. And another thing that's very helpful, which I talked about on the last tips that we had, was always wear a smile. Always wear a smile, because, you know, you do that, you will one day also believe that. And then I'm going to say, and be happy. You know, things are not always as bad as they seem. We all go through rough patches, but, you know, deal with them in the way that they come and with what you can do each day. Don't try to take everything on the plate at once. Do it in pieces. And be happy as you're doing it. Solutions come easier when our mind is free and we are happy about it and we're not being bogged down by, oh my goodness, I got this to do, I got that to do. No. Be happy. The sun is shining. We have some beautiful weather lately. Be happy. And most of all, so all of this works, I'm asking everyone again, be kind to each other. Be kind to each other. We don't ever want to hurt somebody else's feelings, intentional or otherwise. Please, just be kind to everyone. And I want to thank everybody for their great tips, because I can see that some of you are definitely listening to when we're talking, because we always are telling you all of the safety things to do, and obviously you're putting them into practice. It's wonderful to get that great feedback. Thank you all.
Thanks, Bernie. Long-winded, but good stuff. And that brings us to the end of our second presentation, tips from the trenches kind of a thing. Thanks again to all who shared their tips with the rest of us. If you have questions or comments, you can email Judy at
MAYF, as in the first four letters of Mayfield, JUDY at shinschools with an S on it, .org. Please note that Al did say you can send comments or questions to me. If you have any complaints, you can send those right over to Al.
Well, thanks, Judy.
You're welcome.
Why not Bernice?
It's more fun with you.
We miss seeing all of you, that's for sure, and look forward to being together again. Until then, be well, be healthy, be safe. Peace out.